That was Mighty Sam McLean of Mighty Sam McLean fortune, and he was singing "Can You Stand the Test of Love?" So, back to the show, Basil. We have got Mr. Another Paul.
Paul Ferguson.
Make things easier. Paul Ferguson, do we have you on the line?
Hello, guys. How's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. Glad that worked. We're always quite impressed when the technology doesn't break.
Paul, it's so good to hear from you again. It's Basil.
Yeah, how's it going, Basil? Nice to hear from you again.
Yeah, from Paul from SensibleMoney.com.
.ie, I think, isn't it?
.ie, is it? Sorry, oh my God.
.ie.
Sorry, Paul. And his plan to save the economy.
Yeah, exactly. So there just seems to be so much confusion out there, even amongst economists, about where money comes from and why there's less money in circulation during a recession and that kind of thing. So myself and another guy, James Cummesy, set up SensibleMoney.ie just in January this year, primarily just to address the confusion over how banks operate, where they lend money from, how the central bank helps, and so on. And as well as that, we also have a proposal for how we might run the economy a bit better.
Yeah. So, what is the crux of your plan then? Where do you want to start?
Well, I just want to start by getting a second source of digital money into circulation. So just to give you an idea, essentially all our money today exists as numbers on a computer screen. So if you added up the total of everybody's bank balance and everybody's savings accounts and so on, you get a huge number. If you added up all the cash in the world, it's only about 3% of the total. So pretty much all our money exists as numbers on a computer screen.
Yep.
Shouldn't be any problem with that. But most people are familiar with the idea that the government or the treasury or the central bank or whatever can print all the money in circulation, all the cash and so on.
Yep.
People aren't that familiar with where digital money comes from.
Now, I'm assuming you're talking about sort of fractional reserve banking and usury and that kind of thing, are you? From banks creating money?
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit simpler than that. People do sort of learn, or economists at the very least learn, about something called money multiplier. And this is the idea that the Treasury might print a €100 note, and let's imagine that's all that's in circulation just to make it easier.
Yeah.
And eventually somebody might deposit that into a bank. So the bank manager writes down new balance €100. That's all quite straightforward. If somebody comes along and wants to borrow perhaps €90, and the bank manager will hand an actual €90 cash over the counter, and later on that will change hands. It'll get transferred into a bank, and that bank manager will write down new balance €90. So it's only €100 in circulation. There's now two bank balances. One reads 100, one reads 90, and that sort of process can continue, and that's called the money multiplier effect.
Yeah. So the first guy is basically still saying he's got the €100. He never actually lost it.
That amount today, he can do all sorts of things like bank transfers and telephone banking and e-banking and so on. So the 100 still completely acts like money, and then the 90 has been created. But when you think about it, that system that economists learn, it only actually applies if every bank loan is given out as cash. All right.
Yeah.
Now, to go back a step, let's imagine the Treasury prints a €100 note. It gets deposited into a bank. Bank writes down new balance €100. Somebody comes in to borrow 90, but they don't want the actual cash. What can the bank manager do? Well, all he can do, and all that does happen, is he just credits the borrower's account. So he just types in new balance €90 directly.
Yeah.
So there's no cash involved now. And why would it be 90? There's actually no real restrictions on this. And this is where digital money comes from. Every time a loan is processed by a bank, once it's finalized, they type money into the borrower's account, and they don't lower any other account. They don't lower their own reserves or their own profits, or certainly don't lower any other people's deposits for that. So this is where the confusion about banking arises. Most people think that banks are just intermediaries and that they lend out existing money and that it comes from other people's deposits. But of course it doesn't. Nobody's deposits are affected at all. Mortgages happen every day, and nobody's bank balance is ever lower. So
we discussed this last week, Mark, about money. There's no lorry loads of money floating around Europe. There's nobody moving football stadium-sized amounts of money. It's all done digitally.
Yeah.
It's just typed into a computer.
Mhm.
That's what we're talking about when
Exactly,
we talk about
yeah.
digital money.
Yeah, not
Yeah, and
money in your pocket.
I know, yeah, and there shouldn't be any problem with that. But the consequence of this is that every digital euro has a matching debt. You know, digital money is only ever created through the loan process. So not only will bank managers type in new money into your account, but they'll record you as a debtor as well. So this is really the root cause of the debt crisis. Every single euro has a matching debt. And the other part of the scenario that people really aren't that familiar with is when you repay a loan, your bank account returns to zero, your debt returns to zero, and that's a standalone transaction. So money is deleted as loans are repaid.
Yeah.
Right? So that's quite a powerful thought. If the minute we're concentrating on repaying our debt, and can you imagine if we did repay all our debts? It would sound like a fantastic thing, but in actual fact, every single bank balance would read zero.
Yeah.
All the cash would be behind the ATMs, but everybody's bank balance would read zero. And in actual fact, we'd actually still owe the banks some of the interest on the loan, and there wouldn't be any money in circulation. So it's quite a powerful thought.
So this might sound like a simple question, but what is the actual problem with them creating money willy-nilly? Why is that a bad idea?
Well, when banks create money through loans, they have to create it with a matching debtor. And in actual fact, not only what they create is the principal of the loan. So what's in circulation is the principal or partial principal of every loan.
Yeah.
What's owed back is the principal plus interest. So there's a bit of an anomaly there. Now, it is just about possible for everybody to repay their debt because banks only delete the principal of the loan, and any money they take in as interest, they record it as profit, and ultimately it's respent into circulation, and it can be used to repay other loans. But yeah, the problem is that we actually owe more digital money than exists. So it's just not a great way to run an economy.
So what is your plan then? What's the way out?
Well, my plan would be to.
Is it your plan, by the way? Do we put your name next to it, or is it somebody else's idea? Or?
Not particularly. No, it has been discussed in economics. It's known as full reserve banking or narrow banking.
Yeah.
A few different names to it. Our proposal, as in mine and James's, sort of updates it a little bit, take into account the transition can be much smoother. For example, this system was proposed back in the 30s, and the idea was to have literally a dollar bill printed for every bank account and have it stored in a vault somewhere. But the modern day equivalent of that would be to get the central bank to type money into the government's bank account and have them spend it in circulation. So the idea would be that one day we would be debt free overall. So people would obviously borrow, but they could only borrow existing money. So if the bank manager typed money into or increased somebody's account, he would have to lower somebody else's account. So he was literally an intermediary. And it might be, his own account, it might be from his central bank reserve, or it might be from savers. But one way or another, it could only lend existing money. And equally then, as loans are repaid, the money wouldn't be deleted. So this is the kind of crucial thing. We would never get a downturn like we have now, which would be quite the bonus.
Yeah. I have a question which I often ask people who are not that financially savvy, but I'll ask you the question in case somebody is listening who isn't, because I think it's a great question. It makes people scratch their heads. If a government can print its own money, how does it get in debt? Because I know if I had a printing press, I'd probably not owe anybody any money. The answer is the real interesting part, though.
I know, yeah. Printing money has a bad reputation of causing inflation. So it just started out back in the 30s when banks were creating money, and the government, about a fifth of the money supply in America existed as cash, and 80% was bank credit with a matching debt. And eventually people stopped borrowing money, which is what's happening with us today. Money can only come from bank loans, and people stop, so we're running into problems. So to get out of the Great Recession, they decided to up the stakes a little bit and just they printed lots of government bonds. So there were bonds in circulation, but it wasn't that big an industry at all. And anyway, they said, let's do this. So the idea was to get the economy to grow, and just at the next boom, they would collect money from circulation through taxes and use that to pay off the national debt, and the national debt would return to zero. That might cause a little bit of a recession, but the next stage to get out of a recession would be to print more bonds, and this was supposed to be counter-cyclical, and even out the boom-bust cycle. But of course, it wasn't really possible to repay the national debt because they issued just so many bonds to get the economy going again. And eventually we're at the stage now where basically we're just really concentrating on paying off the interest really on the national debt.
So your system basically means that the only people, if I'm understanding this right, the only people who will be allowed to print money under your system, and by print I mean invent in any form, would be the central banks or the government banks and nobody else.
Yeah, so crucially, no money would get deleted under this system once it's in place. So we wouldn't actually need that much new money each year. But the only people who would be allowed to create would be, I think, the central bank. Some people don't agree with that. Actually, they think central bank has a bad history of, concentrating all the power and all the wealth and so on. I think the central bank makes sense economically rather than have banks just with no control at all. And I think the central bank does do a good job in attempting to adjust interest rates, which is all it can do really. So no reason to believe that they would behave irresponsibly if they were if they were the only ones allowed to create money. Especially it would be policed sort of internationally as well. How much they're typing into government bank accounts would be published and so on, and that would be a bit of a safeguard against inflation as well.
I was going to say, if you've got a restricted money supply where you've not got the banks printing it like it's going out of fashion, surely that's going to be counter-inflationary as well, isn't it? Which would be a nice side effect.
Well,
maybe
if we really wanted to control inflation, we could have things just very, very strict, and we could say from one month to the next, the central bank could only create a tiny percentage or whatever. Over throughout the entire year, they could only increase the money supply by perhaps 2% or something like that. But we've had scenarios like that in the past, and actually it can be quite restrictive to the economy. So we would just see a better system would be one where there were no real restrictions at all, but not only would the central bank create money, but occasionally they would say to the government, we're going to have to collect the money through taxes and we'll have to delete it because there's inflation out there or whatever, But if a new project came along, money wouldn't be a restricting factor. For example, if Ireland won the Eurovision or something like that, in that scenario, the government would apply to the central bank to have money typed into their account, and the central bank would check if it's going to be inflationary or not, type it in. After the event, if it was causing inflation, they'd recoup some of it and delete it. So the central bank would be the ones just gauging directly how much money the economy needs.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. We could nearly do an hour with you. I think we'll have to have you back.
We'll probably have you back on. Yeah.
I was just wondering, SensibleMoney.ie. Have I got that correct?
You have.
Yeah.
Are you offering a service there, Paul? What does your company do?
Is it a company?
Or is it a company?
It's not actually officially a company, really. I describe it as an organisation, but we don't take in any money. We don't spend any money. So as such, there's no need to register it as a company. But what we do from on a daily basis is try to get people aware of this. So we do contact various financial journalists, a couple of politicians, and so on. We've actually sent in a formal document to the central bank, and another one to the Department of Finance, and a third one to NAMA. So each of them are being reviewed at the minute. I think the NAMA one and the Department of Finance one have kind of run dry, kind of ignored the last couple of emails, kind of way. But the central bank one has been promising. Basically, I asked them to confirm that banks end up deleting money effectively from the economy as loans are repaid, and it caused a bit of confusion from what I can gather from the reply. But anyway, ultimately, they said, they believe now that overall current accounts are down, and so money is effectively deleted from the economy and that. But anyway, they sent our proposal for review by Dr. Brian Lucy there in Trinity College. So it's with him at the minute, and we'll see what he comes back with.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you got another question, Basil? Or?
No, I don't think so.
No. Has this system worked anywhere else? Is it in use anywhere else, or has it worked previously in history, or is there a precedent anywhere?
Well, there's no exact precedent. There have been examples of, you know, debt-free money being issued in circulation. So we still have examples, say, as in every time the Treasury prints money, ultimately that's debt-free. It's just a permanent addition to the money supply. And anyway, that sort of a system has happened in a good few places. Historically, where the government has just got together and say, why are we borrowing this money? Why don't we just print it? And actually, it hasn't caused inflation because, you know, naturally, it's the exact same thing from the economy's point of view. Whether money is borrowed in circulation or spent in circulation, the economy doesn't really feel the recorded debt until later, you know.
Did you? Sorry, go on, Paul.
We've never been able to stop the money multiplier. So that is the even if the government issues all its money debt-free, you still have that scenario that I described earlier, whereby somebody will deposit the cash into a bank. Even if the bank manager gives out cash, you know, the first guy still acts like he has that money. He can still write checks for that amount and so on. So we've never had a scenario in history where we haven't had the money multiplier, basically.
Have you ever? Are you familiar with what happened on Guernsey, Paul?
Yeah, I've read different things about Guernsey actually, and my jury is still out. But as far as I can gather, they have that system whereby you know, the local government gets together and they don't borrow anything. They just chat and see what money they need, and they type it into their own bank account, and then they spend it into circulation. And if done carefully enough,
apparently they take it back through taxes and things, and they're a debt-free economy. Apparently, from what I hear.
Is Guernsey one of the highest tax areas in the world?
Actually, I believe it's a tax haven. I don't think it's particularly high
haven.
at all. Yeah,
it sounds very good to me.
It has a reputation as a tax haven, all right.
Yeah.
But it does issue debt-free money. Doesn't tend to borrow it. But you still have the money multiplier there. So it all happens electronically now. But still, banks on Guernsey are still allowed to create money, and you know, banks can only create money by recording a matching debtor. So still, you have the scenario where you get a boom-bust cycle in Guernsey, because when lots of people borrow money, we have a boom. When not that many people feel like borrowing money, we have a bust. And you know, it doesn't necessarily match our business needs at all. As you can tell by all the unemployment in European economies, and that you know, lots of work to be done. There's lots of people willing to work. The only thing we're missing is a medium of exchange to bring it all together. And at the minute, that can only come from somebody walking into a bank and organising a loan. And you can imagine now that's not going to happen for a very long time. So I think it's time just for a second source of digital money to complement, at the very least, but perhaps just replace the current source.
Yeah. Well, it's been brilliant having you on, Paul. I think we're probably going to have to get you back on again at another stage to go further into this. It seems there's quite a lot to go through. Have you got any events coming up, Paul? Have you got any? Is anybody doing any talks anywhere that you want to plug while you're on? We'll put a link to your website on this podcast. But do you have anything coming up?
I've nothing in the pipeline, unfortunately. No. Last week I gave a talk in CIT to some economics graduates there. Well received, I have to say. Definitely eye-opening, I think, for them, because they still didn't realise that every digital euro they're matching debt, and indeed that money was deleted through bank loans. They'd never heard that before, so that went down well. But no, nothing else in the pipeline, unfortunately.
Fair enough. If you have anything, let us know, and we'll add it to our events calendar on the website and plug it if we can.
Yeah. Sounds good, Mark. Okay.
Lovely. Okay, well, thank you for coming on, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
No problem. Best of luck, guys. Bye.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, that was Paul Furguson there from SensibleMoney.ie and his endeavours towards a debt-free economy.
I'm getting antsy. I'm afraid I won't get one-shot kill on.
I think you will. We're going to end the show today with a...
great band from New Ross.
Yes, a local band. One Shot Kill, and Come Out Alive is the name of the piece.
Sean McComish and the boys.
Lovely. Okay, here they come. Alternative Future Radio. The Out There Hour with Basil and Mark. www.alternativefutureradio.com. Yay!
second source of digital money into circulation. So just to give you an idea, essentially all our money today exists as numbers on a computer screen. So if you added up the total of everybody's bank balance and everybody's savings accounts and so on, you get a huge number. If you added up all the cash in the world, it's only about 3% of the total. So pretty much all our money exists as numbers on a computer screen.
Yep.
Shouldn't be any problem with that, but most people are familiar with the idea that the government or the Treasury set up SensibleMoney.ie just in January this year, primarily just to address the confusion over how banks operate, where they lend money from, how the central bank helps, and so on. And as well as that, we also have a proposal for how we might run the economy a bit better.
Yeah. So, what is the crux of your plan then? Where do you want to start?
Well, I just want to start by getting...
That was Mighty Sam McLean of Mighty Sam McLean Fortune, and he was singing "Can You Stand the Test of Love?" So, back to the show, Basil. We have got Mr. Another Paul
Ferguson.
Make things easier. Paul Ferguson, do we have you on the line?
Hello, guys. How's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. Glad that worked. We're always quite impressed when the technology doesn't break.
Paul, it's so good to hear from you again. It's Basil.
Yeah, how's it going, Basil? Nice to hear from you again.
Yeah, from Paul from SensibleMoney.com.
.ie, I think, isn't it?
.ie, is it? Sorry, oh my God. Sorry, Paul. And his plan to save the economy.
Yeah, exactly. So there just seems to be so much confusion out there, even amongst economists, about where money comes from and why there's less money in circulation during a recession and that kind of thing. So myself and another guy, James,